Hi everybody. If you're coming in, do say hi, and I'll get started because most people will probably catch this later. It's been awesome to have so much input on these talks with everybody contributing while I've been away, which has been great. I've caught up with everybody's talks now, and it's been really interesting to see what everybody's was sharing about. So thank you. Everyone that's been sharing. It's been really cool. Tonight I thought I'd talk about community, and the reason this topic of communities come up is because I've been really getting out there quite a lot in the last couple of months as we've moved from the dark time of the year into the light time of the year. It's made me more aware of what I want to put into action, and the ideas of that. What for me this year has been very much an introverted time, very much a space of processing and learning, and then putting it into that light half of the year is moving into action. So getting out there more, and I'm going to talk about community, but the reason that that's come out is because I think we sort of work on our internal work in that dark half of the year, and then when we come into that light half of the year, we get more active. Like there's more, like literally more to do outside. There's more daylight hours. I've been really active in the garden and doing more things outside, but it's also a great time to travel and go and meet people and learn about things and get active. A lot of activist type stuff can happen at this time of year too. It's always been a sense of being calling to action. In my book Australian Druidry, I talk about the Wind Change Festival as being about this call to action, a call to change, and a movement from that dark introverted time into the light half of the year where we're more active and rather than just thinking about ideas and finding our inspiration, we're putting it into practice and doing things. So so my last month or so has been really a lot about getting out and meeting people and doing things together, and learning about other people and what other people have going on, and it's just been a really powerful experience to learn about it on so many different levels. There's been three big things that I've done, or four maybe. So the first one was going to the Council of All Beings up in Queensland, where we were talking about environmental grief and about ritual practices that we can do to process those feelings about environmental loss, and our work as activists in whatever sense that might be, if there's some kind of loss or a sense of it not working, how we can process that to find greater strength with community and to move forward. That was a really powerful thing to learn about. And then we had All-Star in Sydney, which was lovely and marked that movement into that shift of energy. And was a lovely community gathering as well, an opportunity to share poetry and things like that, which is always lovely. And then I went on this tour with a bus tour out to all of the towns that have no water, that are struggling with the river system's mismanagement, basically. Some people will say it's the drought, but it's really not. It's a much more complicated systemic issue than that. But learning about all the different facets of that and the different people's experiences that I met and why people were on this trip was really interesting, and another kind of community experience that I had. And then I went to Adelaide, and we did the Earth Gorseth, where we were sort of reworking that idea about environmental grief and loss, and the river came into it a fair bit, and just sharing that was really great. And then I had the opportunity to do some workshops as well. These have kind of been shaping where I'm at the moment, and what I want to talk about. And I think what it's really brought up for me, and what I wanted to share with you, is about how Arwen isn't just about our personal process and self-expression of creativity, that Arwen can also work in community, and that we can work with other people in order to find creative collaboration, and how much power there is in that, and how we can find opportunities to seek that out and to sort of draw together all of those threads between people that we meet, and ways that we can really access that and get the most out of it, not just for ourselves but in service to our community. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So I think one of the easiest ways that we can do this, and like the idea comes to me because sometimes we sit thinking, how am I going to get that done, that thing that I want to have done, or how am I going to achieve this thing that seems so difficult or huge? A lot of us are dreamers and have these ideas that we could do something amazing with our lives, that we want to have this project, and it can sometimes feel really difficult to fathom how we can possibly bring that together. And I want to just express the importance of community and our connections and our interconnections, and the ways that we can work together on things to make something happen. And that it's not necessarily about going out and meeting completely new people, it's just understanding how the threads of the people you already know work together. Though going into new situations and finding new people can be really important too. When I was on this, it was called the Yama Ngangabaka Corroboree bus tour. So we went through 5 different towns and listened to corroboree storytelling and dancing from the Aboriginal people of that area, but also people that had come from other places to share these stories along the way. And they were talking about the river system and the resources, and the stories that are behind these, the ways of understanding the river. And there was also opportunities to meet lots of other people that were interested in this subject. And people would say to me, oh, you've come by yourself, you don't know anybody. And it turned out I did know some people that were there. I saw Michael there, which was really cool. But I also just made a lot of friends along the way. And something beautiful happens at that kind of an event. And similarly at things like Druid camps or, other gatherings where we get to spend a bit of time together, where you come as an individual, but then through meeting people and making connections, listening to other people's stories, finding what you have in common, finding what inspires you together, or ways that you can share that can give you more information about something, and the way that it sort of builds the energy, but also creates a group mind, I think is really powerful. Like by the end of this Rivers tour that I went on, I could feel that we had all come as individuals, but by the end there was this sense of a community that had arisen out of all these, people that really didn't know each other very well at the beginning. Felt like, how could this possibly end? How could we not have these corroborees every night? How could we not be travelling around in these river areas? It was just amazing to see how this group mind appeared when it hadn't existed before. And also the creativity that came out of that was really powerful. The people that I met along the way, the different stories that they told me about their lives, about their troubles, about their passions, and about the ways that they wanted to see the world change. They all thread into that sense of community, that sense of what are we doing in the world, who are we, and what do we want to create. And that can happen with any group of people, and it's a really, it's quite magical. And similarly to when we come together in ritual, there's that sense of all of our different influences coming together, and I talk about it in that talk I did on the Gorseth ritual as well, about how all of our inspirations coming together to create that group mind, that sense of solidarity that that then when Arwen is brought into that can create something, and that's something that I think is really worth exploring if you haven't thought about it before. The ways that your networks, whether they're ones you already know, or ones that you're seeking, or ones that you're maybe just curious to explore by putting yourself in a position where you don't know anybody and you're going to learn. It's quite amazing what can come out of these experiences. So let's have a drink. Water with a druid tonight. So one of the most, I think sometimes it's a really misunderstood quote, is it's not what you know, it's who you know. And sometimes that can be understood as sort of an elitism, that you have to know someone high up in order to get some high up job or something. But I think that it's really expressing the power of our ability to create those webs, that network of people that can share ideas and get something happening. That group mind that it's almost like the hive mind in a way that creates together. And, understanding who your community is and the people that you have around you and the ways that you can work with those people can make reaching your goals so much easier and more achievable, much more easily. Back in the day they didn't have Google, and it meant that, who you know was going to tell you the information that you needed if you needed to answer a question on something. Knowing the expert in that area would get it to you straight away. And that's still really true, because there's some things that Google just can't tell you. They can't give you that human element to it, or the personal connection, and they can't necessarily give you that sense of community, that group mind that can help actually make something happen. We might be able to get the information really easily, but there's something much more valuable in the human connection that can make things happen. So I think we're really lucky in Druidry to have these connections that we can have in person when we go to camps and things like that, where we get to meet people and we get to do rituals and really work on consciously creating that group mind during a ritual for the calling in of Arwen. But one of the things that we can do with that energy, that Arwen energy, is work on something for the community. And it's awesome when we get to meet in person, but obviously we don't always get to have those opportunities, or at times, there's long times between when everybody gets together. But we do have online. I sometimes think about what it would have been like for Druids in the ancient world, perhaps, having a meeting every year, every few years or something, and coming together from all different parts of the world, perhaps to have a meeting about whatever it was that they met about. And I feel like that might have been similar to our kinds of camps that we have. Maybe they had a different focus on what they were doing. Can't really imagine what they were doing, but there is that sense that we come together for these things, and we're actually really lucky to live in an age where we can maintain those connections through online communication, and how wonderful it is that we can have those chats with people, that we can still maintain those connections and be working on that networking. And it's clear that it does actually work. The things that we've seen created through the online world in our Druidry community are quite awesome. I mean, just this little talk series and all the people that have come together to share on this has been really cool, and a wonderful way for everybody to learn a bit more about Druidry and to get those connections in the community happening. So, you might be learning this, this person knows about that and that person knows about this, and when we share information, it actually is helping us to create that group mind even in this online space. And then there's projects like the history project that have happened almost entirely online. I know there's been a couple of announcements and things, and handing out of questionnaires and things like that have happened in person, but a lot of it has happened online, which is really quite amazing that that community Arwen is working towards such a beautiful project that's going to be a part of our history, which is really cool. yeah, so yeah, I think, you know, we're communal beings. We're meant to live in community, right? We want it. If we didn't, when we go to these things, we would maintain our individuality, and that group mind wouldn't form. You know, we're made to connect with others and to find those connections. And I think when we consciously try and work on them and have that curiosity about others, you know, taking time to listen to what other people's story is, taking time to understand what their inspirations are, and what they're passionate about, and what other people want to see change in the world, and then sharing our own stories too, and finding that common ground with other people, and then you know, seeing how others form a web with that. Like, it's just magic to me. That's like why I wanted to call this the magic of community, because when we make those connections just through talking, just through telling our stories and sharing, there's something really powerful that comes out of that. So if I want to say as well, if you've never been to one of these camps and you're wondering if you should go to one, then absolutely do, because your energy is welcome as well. You know, everybody has something different to offer, something to add into the mix, and different skills to share. It's not like any particular kind of person is more valuable than another. The beauty of it is that we share our differences, and that in being different we become stronger, and that's, yeah, amazing. So I wanted to finish with a little meditation. I've only got 3 minutes left, but if you'd like to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. I want you to imagine a circle of people standing around you, perhaps your close friends, and imagine that there's a string between you and each of them. And then there's a string between them and each other, if they know each other. And behind each of them, there's another group of people. And each one of them is joined by a string of light, perhaps. And imagining that web goes out, another ring, and another, and another. Realizing that we're all connected. Imagining that web almost going around the whole world. Knowing that you're connected to all things, and the Awen is moving through all of those connections. And then just bringing it back, imagining it closing back into you, each of those rings falling away and coming back to your center. And feeling that light within you. And that was just a very quick little meditation, just a couple of minutes. But knowing that we're connected, that we're all connected, and that any one of those connections, any one of those threads can be strengthened, and that all of the webs can be brought together to create something, that perhaps even the whole world is a web, in a sense, that's wanting to create something new. Yeah. If you like the idea of this, or you want to talk about connections, or perhaps even what our little community could create together, what you'd like to see, what sort of connections you'd like to make, yeah, say something in the comments. Also, just as a final encouragement, just use this space. This is a wonderful place on Druids Down Under where you can make those connections, where you can say, hey, does anyone know about this thing? Or I've got this dream, I want this to happen, I need somebody who does this or somebody who does that. And, you know, use the space, get it out there, share ideas, make connections, and see what the Arwen might bring for our community. So, yeah, with that, thanks very much for listening, and I'll probably see you next time or soon, because I need to get some more people organised to do a few more. If you're interested in doing a talk, do message me, because I would love to hear other people have a chat. It would be wonderful to get lots of community connections happening. So thanks, bye.